Started? Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to the live studios. We are now at Kalichanjidam, Dallas, Texas, in the Darshan room, the famous Darshan room. This room was once Tamal Krishna Maharaj's Darshan room. Now it's all of our Darshan room. Tonight we welcome all of our viewers. We have a host of devotees here watching in the live studios. And we're reading tonight Srimad-Bhagavatam as usual, which I made a promise to all of you I would, and I will keep that promise at all costs. Before we recite the Srimad-Bhagavatam, we will recite Sanatana Goswami's prayer of glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. This prayer is called Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram. It appears in the Krishna Lila Stava, verses 412 to 416. It is the 107th obeisance planned out by Sanatana Goswami to the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. His plan was to offer 108 obeisances. This is the 107th obeisance in the whole book. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of light to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvandudita Ditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguru Man Mahadana Manistadaka Madbhagya Madananda Namostude. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy. I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadayin atini chochatakara hanamun chagadachin mam premna rit gantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Srila Sanatana Goswami ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading tonight from the 10th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, chapter 88. Lord Siva saved from Vrkasura. Text 1. King Parikshit said, those demigods, demons, and humans who worship Lord Shiva, a strict renunciate, usually enjoy wealth and sense gratification, while the worshippers of the Supreme Lord Hari, the husband of the goddess of fortune, do not. Text 2. We wish to properly understand this matter, which greatly puzzles us. Indeed, the results attained by the worshippers of these two lords of opposite characters are contrary to what one would expect. Purport. The preceding chapter ended with the recommendation that one should always meditate on Lord Hari, the bestower of liberation. In this regard, Maharaj Parikshit here expresses a common fear among ordinary people, that by becoming a devotee of Lord Vishnu, one will lose his wealth and social status. For the benefit of such persons of little faith, King Parikshit requests Srila Shukadev Goswami to explain an apparent paradox. Lord Shiva, who lives like a beggar, without even a house to call his own, makes his devotees rich and powerful, whereas Lord Vishnu, the omnipotent possessor of all that exists, often reduces his servants to abject poverty. Shukadev Goswami will respond with reasoned explanations and an ancient account concerning the demon Vrka. Text 3. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Lord Shiva is always united with his personal energy, the material nature. Manifesting himself in three features in response to the entreaties of nature's three modes, he thus embodies the threefold principle of material ego in goodness, passion, and ignorance. Text 4. The 16 elements have evolved as transformations of that false ego. When a devotee of Lord Shiva worships his manifestation in any one of these elements, the devotee obtains all sorts of corresponding enjoyable opulences. Purport. False ego transforms into the mind 10 senses: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, hands, feet, voice, genitals, and anus, and 5 physical elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Lord Shiva appears in a special linga form in each of these 16 substances, which are worshipped individually as deities in various sacred locations of the universe. A devotee of Shiva may worship one of his particular lingas to obtain the mystic opulences pertaining to it. Thus, Lord Shiva's Akasha Linga bestows the opulences of ether, his Jyotir Linga bestows the opulences of fire, and so on. Text 5. Lord Hari, however, has no connection with the material modes. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the all-seeing, eternal witness who is transcendental to material nature. One who worships him becomes similarly free from the material modes. Purport. Lord Vishnu is situated in his own transcendental position beyond the material energy. Why therefore should his worship bear the fruit of material opulence? The real fruit of worshipping Lord Vishnu is transcendental knowledge. Thus, Lord Vishnu's worshipper gains the eye of transcendental knowledge instead of being blinded by mundane assets. The Lord being the detached witness of the material creation, his devotee also becomes aloof from the interaction of the Lord's inferior energies. Srila Sridhar Swami cites the following passage from the Vedic literature. Vastuno gunasambhande rupa dvayam ihashyate tad dharma yoga yogabhyam bimbavat paridvinbavat. When the absolute reality associates with the modes of nature, he assumes two different kinds of form in the world, according to whether his spiritual qualities are manifest or not. Thus, he acts just like a reflection, and its further secondary reflection. Quote, the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, whose individual natures are peaceful, violent, and foolish, are personally regulated by Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, respectively. Quote, Lord Vishnu's peaceful mode of goodness does not differ substantially from his original spiritual qualities, although it is only a partial manifestation of them within this world. Thus, Lord Vishnu's mode of goodness is never tainted by agitation in passion or delusion in ignorance. Quote, by the modes of passion and ignorance, on the other hand, the original spiritual qualities of Lord Brahma and Lord Rudra are obscured. Thus, these spiritual qualities appear only partially as separated material qualities. Quote, therefore, focusing one's consciousness upon Lord Vishnu, the embodiment of all goodness, leads one to liberation. Such God consciousness also generates material success as a byproduct, but its proper nature is pure spiritual ecstasy. Quote, according to their mode of worship, devotees of Brahma, Rudra, and other demigods obtain the limited success of material opulences. Eventually, they may possibly become qualified for full liberation. This same idea is echoed in the following statement of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Quote, of these three, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, all human beings can derive ultimate benefit from Vishnu, the form of the quality of goodness. That's Srimad-Bhagavatam 1:2-23. Text 6. Your grandfather, King Yudhishthira, after completing his Ashwamedha sacrifices, asked Lord Achyuta this very same question while hearing the Lord's explanation of religious principles. Now we notice that the form that the Bhagavatam, and actually all the other Vedic literatures take as well, is that when a question is asked, almost invariably, the speaker refers to that same question having been asked by superior persons to him. And sometimes it'll go on to another dimension or another level, and then another level, before the answer is actually given. So this is the way of receiving spiritual knowledge through those who actually know. We can't get spiritual knowledge from the strength of the mundane, material mind or intelligence. It has to come from the hearts of liberated souls, and liberated souls tend to think someone else knows more than me. That's why they're liberated souls. That's why they can hear from persons who are superior to them. Because when you're not a liberated soul, the tendency to think that I know everything is very strong. No, who knows more than me? Text 7. So now, Lord Yudhishthira asked Achyuta this very same question. Why is it Lord Shiva, who doesn't even have a house to live in, lives in crematoriums, the followers tend up being very opulent, for the most part, and Lord Vishnu, who's the most opulent person, period, his followers tend to live in abject poverty many times. It's not a hard and fast rule. Some of the most opulent personalities in the universe also are diligent worshippers of Lord Shiva. But in general, it's like that. Text 7. This question pleased Sri Krishna, the king's lord and master, who had descended in the family of Yadu for the purpose of bestowing the highest good on all men. The Lord replied as follows, as the king eagerly listened. So this is Krishna's mercy. We're getting to hear this answer right from him. Top authority. Topmost authority. Text 8. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The personality of Godhead said, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. This is a very famous verse. Prabhupada would quote it regularly, so I'm going to quote it. I don't quote generally the Sanskrit when we do these readings. We're going to mainly quote the English because most devotees, especially in the West, don't understand the Sanskrit anyway. But this is a very famous verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yasyaham Anugrinami Harishe Tadanam Shanahi Tato Dhanam Chajan Yasya Swajana Dukadukitam. The personality of Godhead said, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress after another. Purport. Devotees of the Supreme Lord experience both happiness and distress, not as consequences of material work, but as incidental effects of their loving reciprocation with the Lord. Srila Rupa Goswami, in his Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, has his definitive treatise on the process of devotional service, explains how a Vaishnava is relieved of all karmic reactions, including those that have not yet begun to manifest, aprarabdha, those that are just about to manifest, kuta, those that are barely manifesting, bija, and those that have manifested fully, prarabdha. As a lotus gradually loses its many petals, so a person who takes shelter of devotional service has all his karmic reactions destroyed. So that's the key. That's the key. The karmic reactions are destroyed, therefore the effects in the material world are diminished and are destroyed, and therefore we're left with nothing but everything with Krishna. That devotional service to Lord Krishna eradicates all karmic reactions. That devotional service to Lord Krishna eradicates all karmic reactions, is confirmed in this passage of the Gopal Tapani Shruti. Quote, devotional service is the process of worshipping the Supreme Lord. It consists of fixing the mind upon Him by becoming disinterested in all material designations, both in this life and the next. It results in the dissolution of all karma. End quote. While it is certainly true that those who practice devotional service remain in material bodies and apparently material situations for some time, this is simply an expression of the inconceivable mercy of the Lord, who bestows the fruits of devotion only when it has become pure. In every stage of devotion, however, the Lord watches over His devotee and sees to the gradual elimination of his karma. Thus, despite the fact that the happiness and distress devotees experience resemble ordinary karmic reactions, they are in fact given by the Lord Himself. As the Bhagavatam states, 1087:40, Bhavad Uta Shubha Shubhayo. A mature devotee recognizes the superficially good and bad conditions he encounters as signs of the direct guidance of his ever well-wishing Lord. But if the Lord is so compassionate to his devotees, why does he expose them to special suffering? This is answered by an analogy. A very affectionate father takes the responsibility of restricting his children's play and making them go to school. He knows that this is a genuine expression of his love for them, even if the children fail to understand. Similarly, the Supreme Lord Vishnu is mercifully strict with all his dependents, not only with immature devotees struggling to become qualified. Even perfect saints like Prahlad, Dhruva, and Yudhishthira were subjected to great tribulations, all for their glorification. After the battle of Kurukshetra, Sri Bhishmadev described to King Yudhishthira his wonder at this. Yatta dharma suto raja gada panir vikro dara Krishna stri gandivam chapam surit Krishna stapo vipat na yasya karichit rajan puman veti viditsitam yad vijigyasya yukta muyanti kavayopihi. Oh, how wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhishthira, the son of the demigod, controlling? What happened? I went somewhere. Yes. Oh, how wonderful is the influence of inevitable time. It is irreversible. Otherwise, how can there be reverses in the presence of King Yudhishthira, the son of the demigod controlling religion? Bhima, the great fighter with a club, the great bowman Arjuna with his mighty weapon Gandiva, and above all, the Lord, the direct well-wisher of the Pandavas. O King, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. Although a Vaishnava's happiness and distress are felt as pleasure and pain, just like ordinary karmic reactions, they are different in a significant sense. Material happiness and distress arising from karma leave a subtle residue, the seed of future entanglement. Such enjoyment and suffering tend toward degradation and increase the danger of falling into hellish oblivion. Happiness and distress generated from the Supreme Lord's desires, however, leave no trace after their immediate purpose has been served. Moreover, the Vaishnava who enjoys such reciprocation with the Lord is in no danger of falling down into nations. As Yamaraj, the Lord of Death and the Judge of all departed souls, declares, quote, "My dear servants, please bring to me only those sinful persons who do not use their tongues to chant the holy name and qualities of Krishna, whose hearts do not remember the lotus feet of Krishna even once, and whose heads do not bow down even once before Lord Krishna. Send me those who do not perform their duties toward Vishnu, which are the only duties in human life. Please bring me all such fools and rascals." Prabhupada must have enjoyed translating that. He uses the word rascal, one of his favorite words. The beloved devotees of the Lord do not regard as very troublesome the suffering he imposes on them. Indeed, they find that in the end it gives rise to unlimited pleasure, just as a stinging ointment applied by a physician cures his patient's infected eye. In addition, suffering helps protect the confidentiality of devotional service by discouraging intrusions by the faithless. And it also increases the eagerness with which the devotees call upon the Lord to appear. If the devotees of Lord Vishnu were complacently happy all the time, he would never have a reason to appear in this world as Krishna, Ramachandra, Nishinga, and so on. As Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma sangstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. And without the Lord showing himself on earth in his original form of Krishna and in the forms of various incarnations, his faithful servants in this world would have no opportunity to enjoy his Rasa Leela and other pastimes. You're trying to say something? Excuse me, we have some technical difficulties, perhaps.
The lighting is not good, it's very loud.
Then point this in my face.
It's coming. Okay. Here we go.
There you go. Is that better? We're hearing from persons who are watching that the lighting is not so good. I didn't expect it to be very good here, frankly speaking, because the lighting in the room is not very good. But anyway, listen to me. The sound is the most important thing. Even if you can't see me very well, maybe that's Krishna's arrangement, so you'll hear better. I mean, who wants to look at this puss, you know? Whether we hear something nice. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti here counters a possible objection. What fault could there be in God's incarnating for some other reason than to deliver saintly persons from suffering? The learned Acharya responds, yes, my dear brother, this makes good sense, but you are not expert in understanding spiritual moods. Please listen. It is at night that the sunrise becomes attractive. During the hot summer, the cold water gives comfort. And during the cold winter months, that warm water is pleasing. Lamplight appears attractive in darkness, not in the glaring light of day. And when one is distressed by hunger, food tastes especially good. In other words, to strengthen his devotee's mood of dependence on him and longing for him, the Lord arranges for his devotees to go through some suffering, and when he appears in order to deliver them, their gratitude and transcendental pleasure are boundless. Text 9. When he becomes frustrated in his attempts to make money and instead befriends my devotees, I bestow my special mercy upon him. Text 10. A person, I just want to remind you, this is Krishna speaking himself, the supreme absolute authority. A person who has thus become sober fully realizes the absolute as the highest truth, the most subtle and perfect manifestation of spirit, the transcendental existence without end. In this way, realizing that the supreme truth is the foundation of his own existence, he is freed from the cycle of material life. Because I am difficult to worship, people generally avoid me and instead worship other deities who are quickly satisfied. When people receive kingly opulences from these deities, they become arrogant, intoxicated with pride, and neglectful of their duties. They dare to offend even the demigods who have bestowed benedictions upon them. Shukadeva Goswami said, Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and others are able to curse or bless one. Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are very quick to curse or bestow benedictions. My dear King, but the infallible Supreme Lord is not. Text 13. In this connection, an ancient historical account is related concerning how the Lord of Kailasa mountain was put into danger by offering a choice of benedictions to the demon Vrka.
Who's speaking now?
Shukadeva Goswami.
Okay, so we went from Lord Krishna to
Yes, yes. That's when it said Shukadev Goswami said that was the hint. Text 14. The demon named Vrika, a son of Shakunis, once met Narada on the road. The wicked fellow asked him which of the three gods could be pleased most quickly. Narada told him, "Worship Lord Shiva and you will soon achieve success." He quickly becomes pleased by seeing his worshippers' slightest good qualities, and quickly angered by seeing his slightest fault. He became pleased with the 10-headed Ravana and also with Bana, when they each chanted his glories like bards in a royal court. Lord Shiva then bestowed unprecedented power upon each of them, but in both cases he was consequently beset with difficulty. Purport. Ravana worshipped Lord Shiva to gain power and then misused that power to uproot the Lord's residence, sacred Kailas Parvata. On Banasura's request, Lord Shiva agreed to personally guard Bana's capital, and later he had to fight for Bana against Krishna and his sons. Text 17. Shukadev Goswami continued, just to make sure that we all know who's speaking. Thus advised, the demon proceeded to worship Lord Shiva at Kedarnath by taking pieces of flesh from his own body and offering them as oblations into the sacred fire, which is Lord Shiva's mouth. He wants Shiva to become a cannibal. Vrkasura became frustrated after failing to obtain a vision of the Lord. Finally, on the 7th day, after dipping his hair into the holy waters at Kedarnath and leaving it wet, he took up a hatchet and prepared to cut off his head. But at that very moment, the supremely merciful Lord Shiva rose up out of the sacrificial fire, looking like the god of fire himself, and grabbed both arms of the demon to stop him from killing himself, just as we would do. By Lord Shiva's touch, Vrkasura once again became whole. Text 20. Lord Shiva said to him, "My friend, please stop. Ask from me whatever you want, and I will bestow that boon upon you. Alas, you have subjected your body to great torment for no reason, since I am pleased with the simple offering of water from those who approach me for shelter." 21. Shukadev Goswami continued, "The benediction sinful Vrka chose from the Lord would terrify all living beings." Vrka said, "May death come to whomever I touch upon the head with my hand." Nice guy, right? Text 22. Upon hearing this, Lord Rudra seemed somewhat disturbed. Nonetheless, O descendant of Bharata, he vibrated Om to signify his assent, granting Vrka the benediction with an ironic smile, as if giving milk to a poisonous snake. 23. To test Lord Shambhu's benediction, the demon then tried to put his hand on the Lord's head. Thus Shiva was frightened because of what he himself had done. As the demon pursued him, Lord Shiva fled swiftly from his abode in the north, shaking with terror. He ran as far as the limits of the earth, the sky, and the corners of the universe. The great demigods can only remain silent, not knowing how to counteract the benediction. Then Lord Shiva reached the luminous realm of Vaikuntha, beyond all darkness, where the Supreme Lord Narayana is manifest. That realm is the destination of renunciants who have attained peace and given up all violence against other creatures. Going there, one never returns. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Lord Shiva entered the planet of Shwetadweep, a special outpost of the spiritual world, within the confines of the material universe. There, on a beautiful white island surrounded by the celestial ocean of milk, Lord Vishnu rests on the serpent bed of Anantashesha, making himself available to the demigods when they need his help. Text 27 and 28. The Supreme Lord, who relieves his devotees' distress, had seen from afar that Lord Shiva was in danger. Thus, by his mystic Yogamaya potency, he assumed the form of a brahmachari student with the appropriate belt, deerskin, rod, and prayer beads, and came before Vrkasura. The Lord's effulgence glowed brilliantly like fire. Holding kusha grass in his hand, he humbly greeted the demon. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes the disguised Lord Narayan as saying, "For us seers of the absolute truth, all created beings are worthy of respect, and since you are the son of Shukuni, a wise man and performer of great austerities, you certainly deserve the respectful greeting of a young brahmachari like myself." 29. The Supreme Lord said, "My dear son of Shukuni, you appear tired. Why have you come such a great distance? Please rest for a minute. After all, it is one's body that fulfills all one's desires." Purport. We're learning how to appeal to a demon. Purport. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada comments, before the demon could argue that he had no time to take rest, the Lord informed him about the importance of the body, and the demon was convinced. Any man, especially a demon, takes his body to be very important. Text 30. O Almighty One, please tell us what you intend to do, if we are qualified to hear it. Usually one accomplishes his purposes by taking help from others. Purport. Even an envious demon will not refuse the help of a brahmana's potency to gain his ends. 31. Shukadeva Goswami said, thus questioned by the personality of Godhead, in language that poured down upon him like sweet nectar, Vrika felt relieved of his fatigue. He described to the Lord everything he had done. Text 32. The Supreme Lord said, if this is the case, we cannot believe what Shiva says. Shiva is the same Lord of the Pretas and Pishachas, whom Daksha cursed to become like a carnivorous hobgoblin. Text 33. O best of the demons, if you have any faith in him, because he is the spiritual master of the universe, then without delay, put your hand on your head and see what happens. 34. If the words of Lord Shambhu prove untrue in any way, O best of the demons, then kill the liar, so that he may never lie again. Purport. Lord Shiva may have the power to revive himself. He will be dissuaded from lying again. Text 35. Shukadeva Goswami continued, thus bewildered by the personality of Godhead's enchanting, artful words, foolish Vrika, without realizing what he was doing, placed his hand on his head. Instantly, his head shattered as if struck by a lightning bolt, and the demon fell down dead. From the sky were heard cries of victory, obeisances, and well done. 37. The celestial sages, Pitas and Gandharvas rained down flowers to celebrate the killing of sinful Vrkasura. Now Lord Shiva was out of danger. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then addressed Lord Girisha, who was now out of danger. Just see, O Mahadev, my Lord, how this wicked man has been killed by his own sinful reactions. Indeed, what living being can hope for good fortune if he offends exalted saints? What to speak of offending the Lord and spiritual master of the universe? Purport. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, this statement of Lord Vishnu's implies a mild scolding. My dear possessor of unlimited vision, O you of clear intelligence, benedictions should not be given to wicked demons in this way. You could have been killed, but you were only concerned about saving this poor soul. So you disregarded what would happen to you as a result. Thus, Acharya Vishwanath Chakravarti points out Lord Narayana's mild rebuke also highlighted Lord Shiva's exceptional compassion. Text 40. Lord Hari is the directly manifest absolute truth, the Supreme Lord, an unlimited ocean of inconceivable energies. Anyone who recites or hears this pastime of his saving Lord Shiva will be freed from all enemies and the repetition of birth and death. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami concludes this chapter with the following statement. Bhakta Sankatamālokya Kripa Purna Ridambujaha Giritram Chitravakyatu Mokshayam Asa Kesavaha. When Lord Kesava saw the danger confronting his devotee, his lotus-like heart became filled with sympathy. Thus, he delivered Lord Shiva from the consequences of his own eloquent words. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 88th chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Shiva Saved from Vrkasura. Hare Krishna. So, I thought it was going to take longer to read that chapter. The next chapter is quite long. It's like 7 each verses or something like that. So we're not going to be able to read the whole chapter. I like not to, except for the prayers of the personified Vedas, which was too long to do it in one sitting. We usually read at least one or two, or one time even three, if they're short enough. But we're not going to be able to do both of those tonight within a reasonable amount of time. So therefore, we will request reflections, questions, comments, corrections, chastisements. Well, you better be careful who you chastise. Yes, Deva Prabhu from Dallas is speaking. Now I have to repeat it into the microphone because they won't be able to hear it.
We discussed earlier, as I was listening,
As he was listening
to the purports,
it sounded like Prabhupada's purports.
We discussed that before. I find it very relishable to hear.
He's finding it very relishable to hear
The way the disciples of Srila Prabhupada
the way the disciples of Srila Prabhupada follow in Prabhupada's mood and style. I think that that's an excellent point, one that I often feel as I read this 10th canto, and therefore I'm determined to finish the 11th and the 12th cantos. And I know that there are devotees who, when they get to the place in the 10th canto where Prabhupada stopped finishing his translation of purports, they turn around and go back because Prabhupada didn't do it. So what better glorification of Srila Prabhupada could there be than one of his followers completing the Bhagavatam in such an exemplary and wonderful way? And 2 out of the 3 devotees who worked on it, no, I'm sorry, the only one. The 2 that worked on this were Ridananda Das Goswami, Gopi Paranadana Prabhu, and Dravida, who was the English editor. But just Gopi Paranadana Prabhu's translation and comment commentary on the Srimad-Bhagavatam solicited and Jayadvaita Maharaj's edit, polish edit. I did the first edit, but Jayadvaita Maharaj put the dot on the I, the cherry on top, the cream, to make it what it is, what it is. They solicited, or the text and the commentary of the Srimad-Bhagavatam accepted it such high praise from Professor Joseph O'Connell, who at that time in the academic world was the top, how do I say this, recognized by all the other scholars in his field of Gaudiya Vaishnavism as the top scholar. He sat in the number one seat. And he praised Gopi Puranadana Prabhu's translation and commentary and the BBT for publishing it. And he made the point that many times publishers will truncate or cut out things to make it shorter, so they can make more money or something, whatever the reason is. But the BBT publications are to the point. They're especially loyal. We notice it all the way through these purports. The various acharyas that comment on the Bhagavatam were referred to in making the commentary, and it all fit together perfectly well, very well organized, and usually ends with Sridhar Swami's commentaries, who was the commentator that Lord Chaitanya especially accepted as authoritative. So yes, I think this is a wonderful point, and I think that the devotees who feel like this should think again. Because Prabhupada wanted us to read the Bhagavatam all the way through. We'll see now, once the 10th canto ends, 11th canto begins, then we'll hear the Uddhava Gita, Krishna speaking the absolute truth to Uddhava. He spoke in the beginning, before the Bhagavatam, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Now he's speaking the Gita to Uddhava, but in between there's the whole Bhagavatam practically. So that Gita that Krishna spoke to Uddhava is even more enriched. And how many times does Prabhupada quote from the 11th canto in his purports? Many times. Anyway, I take the point. It's a wonderful point. Thank you for making the point. All devotees should read the whole Bhagavatam. That's Prabhupada's will. It's his desire, and also these devotees were commissioned to do that. They didn't take it upon their own out of pride or any personal consideration. They were commissioned to do it by the leading devotees of the movement, the GBC body, and the BBT trustees, and they did it wonderfully. And we'll see as we go through these last cantos. Vaisheshika Prabhu and I do readings like this every Kartik, and 2 years ago we read the 11th and 12th cantos full in 1 month. And everybody that was present, including us, were just amazed at how precise and deep and enriched and enlivening. You can taste, you can taste the potency when you hear submissively. Hare Krishna. Yes, we have some. Mohini's going to speak. Now you have to let me translate, let me repeat it into the microphone.
How did this point did not come to Lord Shiva's mind that...
How did
Lord Shiva did not think...
How did Lord Shiva not think
that the benediction he's giving...
that the benediction he's giving
can kill him also?
Well, this is the nature of a pure Vaishnava. Lord Shiva, one of Shiva's names is Vaishnavanam Yatak Shambhu. He's the most merciful Vaishnava. Therefore, he's considered the greatest Vaishnava. He's very, very easily angered, and he's very, very easily pleased. So a compassionate person forgets his own trouble. Just as Prabhupada forgot his own trouble to come to the West. The austerities that Prabhupada did to deliver us so that we can sit here in this room and read the Bhagavatam together are inconceivable. He took so much trouble, so much, practically he almost died on the boat coming over. Then he almost died again with another heart attack, stroke or whatever it was. But he didn't stop him. He just kept on going. Even though he knew, that what he was doing was testing his body and his mind in that age, that old age. Starting at 70 years old. Those of us who have reached over 70 can now, I think, at least better understand, if not truly understand, just how great what Prabhupada did was. So Lord Shiva is like that. He's the topmost compassionate person. And he gives shelter, therefore, to some of the most degraded persons in the universe. So that compassion covered his fear, or the possibility of him being, killed by this rascal. And the other thing is that although Lord Shiva is different from Vishnu, he's also not different from Vishnu. Lord Shiva is actually, in his original form, he's called Sada Shiva. And Sada Shiva has a form, eternal form in the spiritual world. And he's an aspect of Mahavishnu. And therefore, when Mahavishnu glances, that aspect of Mahavishnu is the glance. And when that glance touches the material energy, it changes into Shambhu, Lord Shiva. Just like when you touch milk with a tamarind or some pungent agent, it will change the milk into yogurt. So the yogurt is milk, but it's changed into yogurt. But it's milk. You can't do the same things with yogurt as you can do with milk, and vice versa. So like that, Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, they know what's going to happen. They're both Trikalagya. There's a doubt that comes into sometimes devotees, inexperienced devotees' minds that, well, if Vishnu knows everything, past, present, and future, then where's the question of free will? Because if he already knows that you're going to fall down, then what's the point? No, he knows everything, but he doesn't interfere with the independence of the soul. If he were to interfere with the independence of the soul, love could not exist. It's as simple as that. Mohini is saying, but Lord Shiva is such an exalted devotee. How does he get angry so easy? Because he, just like Krishna, if someone is exalted, a demon as enough, he will kill him. But actually, ultimately, it's his pleasure, because he likes to fight. The fighting propensity has to come from somewhere. Everything comes from Krishna, the fighting propensity. But you have to become a very special demon to warrant, Krishna's anger and his killing you, and then get liberation. So his anger is always for the benefit of everyone. Sometimes we think in terms of the way we would do things, or we think in terms of the way ordinary human beings would act when we think about Krishna and Shiva and all these great, and the personality of Godhead and all in His expansions and incarnations. But they're not like us. Therefore, there's a verse that says that it's very difficult to understand the mind of the Lord. One time Srila Prabhupada was asked kind of a similar question, and Prabhupada answered, "Why don't you ask him?" Because there are certain things that you may speak philosophically or, make analogies and everything, but ultimately there's certain things you can't understand unless you ask him face to face. So become pure, go back to Krishna and ask him. Yes, Krishna Chaitanya wanted to say something.
Maharaj, I enjoyed the section, just in the purport there was a mention of how...
Can he be heard? Can you tell?
Probably not. I appreciated the point in the purport.
He appreciated the point in the purport.
About how Krishna deals with his devotees.
About how Krishna deals in his devotees in such a way
that it protects devotional service.
It protects devotional service.
And keeps it confidential.
And keeps it confidential. That's a very nice point. Very nice remembrance. Good memory.
I often think about how it's inconceivable that I could understand any of this. But then I try to tell somebody else about it, and they just go, "Huh?"
So let me say that last part again.
Well, it's
just say it again. Repeat it again. What you just said. That sometimes you appreciate.
I appreciate that it's amazing that I can understand some of this.
That he's appreciating that he's appreciating his own ability to understand some of this.
And then I can also see how.
Non-devotees
can't see a thing.
Non-devotees can't see a thing. And sometimes when you try to explain it to somebody, they just... And that is a way of Krishna helping you to appreciate how wonderful devotional service is. That's it. Very nice. Very nice point. Thank you. We can always count on you for something brilliant. No flattery intended. Yes, we have a question. Krishna puts his devotees in a difficulty so that they can get closer to him. But when difficulties do come, it's very difficult to understand and appreciate that it's for a benefit in Krishna consciousness. Well, nobody can. Is it okay to understand not understand that, and then later on to understand it? Of course, nobody can understand everything in the beginning.
But then, how do we deal with difficulties when they come?
You suffer. You came to the material world. We all came to the material world, and therefore we have to suffer. That's the nature of the beasts. Dukalayama Shasvatam. Krishna himself certifies it as a temporary place full of miseries. You can't. If you're a utopian and you think that just because now I chant Hare Krishna, the material world is going to be like a bed of roses, and bells are going to be ringing in the sky, and flowers are going to be following from the sky. It's just not like that. It's not reality. And then, if you want to go further, Srila Prabhupada wrote this very famous letter we call the Utopia letter that he wrote to Atreya Rishi in February 4th, 1972. And there he explained that actually it's the nature of the living entity to have some kind of fault or imperfection, except for Krishna. It's the nature of the living entity. Even in the spiritual world, the living beings who are not Krishna, they will sometimes make a mistake. And he even used this very extreme example that even Krishna sometimes makes a mistake under the influence of love or the Yogamaya potency. And he said, sometimes when Krishna gets really bewildered by Radharani, he tries to milk the bull instead of the cow by mistake. So you can imagine you're a CNN reporter, you're coming along, and there's this little blue boy trying to milk a bull instead of a cow, and someone tells you, oh, there's God. Huh? God? Can't tell the difference between a bull and a cow? So if we think like that, if we think in materialistic terms, if we compare Krishna to anything within our experience, then we can't understand. Therefore, the soul has to be purified in order to be able to understand. And just the very hearing of these things purifies the soul and enables us to understand. But, this is the famous word, yes, but. Mohini, go ahead. When the difficulty comes, it becomes. We're not always able to see that it's Krishna's plan.
Not able to appreciate it a lot.
Not only to appreciate it a lot and. Well, it's the same answer. I'm giving the same answer.
What I'm trying to say is, I have noticed that sometimes.
What she's trying to say is that I've noticed that sometimes
some things which happen and I don't like.
Some things that happens which you don't like.
There's this distance which.
There's a distance which
comes between me and Krishna.
Which comes between me and Krishna.
Some kind of discomfort in a relationship.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. As long as you're a neophyte, that will happen. But when you become advanced and things like that happen, then the quality of that disappointment will change into ecstasy. That is called vipralamba, or the feeling of separation from Krishna. In other words, he does something and you feel distance from him, and then you become upset. That's because you think you want to be with him. You know, it's for you. So Krishna is telling you, is it for me or for you? And when it comes to the point where it's always for Krishna, then he'll purposely put distance just to make you more attached, to make your feeling more intense, so that you can taste the highest transcendental ecstasy. That cannot be understood by mundane reason and argument. Inconceivable. It's inconceivable. So you can't expect to understand inconceivable things before you are very advanced. Now, the mystic thing is that as a devotee becomes more advanced, he thinks he's less advanced. He thinks himself or herself less and less qualified to understand. And then, by that process, one eventually comes to the point of full surrender, full appreciation. Because then you realize, you're unlimited and I am infinitesimal. It's not possible for me to understand you. Only if you, by your causeless mercy will just give me a drop of mercy so that I can understand a drop. That attracts Krishna. See? The thing we're trying to do is to attract Krishna. So if every little thing you get disturbed and you start to, wait a second, Krishna, I don't know about this, then how's Krishna going to get attracted to you? Krishna's love is unconditional. Our love isn't unconditional. That's the problem. When our love becomes unconditional, Krishna, his love is unconditional, and therefore he has the capacity to reciprocate perfectly, unlimitedly, with anyone and everyone under any circumstance. Therefore he says, Sarvadharman Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam. Arjun, I've explained all these things to you. All about philosophy, all about don't be proud, do your duty, all your nature, yoga, meditation, philosophy, more philosophy, so many things. Showed him universal form. And then he says, Sarvadharma, give that all up and just do what I ask you to do. So the materialist says, oh, this is no fun. I mean, this is like, you lose a war and you wave a white flag, and that's what surrender means. And then the enemy sometimes just blows your head off once you do that. So we're not going to do that. Surrender to a materialist is a horrible thought. Surrender? Horrible thought for a materialistic person. So attached to everything he's got, and he's going to have to surrender something? Surrender some of it? No way. So all these impurities have to go before Krishna will be willing to want to get close to you. He's always willing, but we have to be qualified. He's the most special person. So we have to let him be the most special person and not ourselves try to be the special person. Because that's it's a rasa basa. It doesn't allow the natural flow of the relationship. But sometimes in Braj, where the spontaneous love is dominant, completely dominant, even though they know perfectly well who he is, but their love is so strong that they don't remember it. The love covers their feelings of awe and reverence and respect and all these things. Sometimes the cowherd boys, they're out there playing, and they'll say, "Hey, what kind of big bang you think you are? You need us to help you carry your lunch bag?" Then they challenge him, and they fight, and sometimes they win. Of course, ultimately, they can't beat Krishna. Nobody can, but Yogamaya makes that arrangement so that they can taste this flow of spontaneous joy that is there when you play with your friend. When you're friends, when I was a friend, we used to have secret places. We could only go where our special friends, and if our parents showed up, that would ruin the whole thing. Imagine if you could do that with God. How wonderful that would be. Anything else? All right, then for tonight, I did a long haul flight yesterday, and I didn't take any rest today, so I'm going to retire timely before I fall asleep at the switch and embarrass myself and everyone else. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Maybe you could do the needful. And all of you listening in, thank you very much. We'll be here at the same time, same station, tomorrow night to read the 89th chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, 10th canto. Hare Krishna. Hare